was only earlier this year in April that TooKyo Games released their genre-busting definition of insanity strategy RPG visual novel, The 100-Line Last Defense Academy. And yet, come September, the same year, they're releasing another cacophony of absurdity in the form of Shuten Order. Developed in collaboration with DMM Games and then published in the West by Chunsoft, Shuten Order is promised to be a genre-bust definition of insanity adventure game. With this one brought to you by the minds of Danganronpa, Kazutaka Kodaka, Master Detective Archive's Rain Code, Takakuni Kitayama, and Root Double Before Crime After Days, Takumi Nakazawa. This is gonna be one wild ride, huh?
私は落ち着いてる。そう、落ち着いて。それより君の目的何の企み。まさか図書室には誰もいないことを知って、私と二人きりになってここでしない。それがね、地上。
Shuten Order stars the androgynous, amnesiac, and incredibly socially awkward Rei Shimobe. She wakes up in a hotel room and is informed by some angels that she has recently been murdered, but was granted a temporary body in order to investigate the crime. But she's only got a few days to do so. And it's all apparently part of God's trial, which also stipulates she needs to kill her murderer. How is she going to do any of that? By playing detective. After a preliminary investigation, she finds out that 1. The town of Shuten is run by a cult called the Shuten Order. 2. Rei was dismembered. 3. The cult leaders or ministers are the prime suspects for her murder. 4. The cult is praying for the oncoming end of the world. And 5. Rei is the cult's founder. With all of that being far too much information and not really absorbed, Rei sets off to investigate the various ministers. Shuten Order, the game, is a visual novel adventure game. There's lots of sprites, text, and narration displayed in a very stylistic manner, and it opens with a lot of point-and-click adventure game elements too. You have some sections where you can select sparklies on the screen to investigate, and some where you just get to walk around in 3D. Except, everything changes when you go to investigate the ministers. Investigating the spontaneous junkie and Minister of Justice, Kishiru Inugami, will send Rei on a detective mystery plotline where she ends up forced to investigate an entirely different murder. After a death on the eve of the announcement of a will, Rei and Inugami investigate the scene to find the culprit and stop an oncoming frame job. She may be a bit too awkward to yell "objection," but Rei can sure snap her fingers loudly to compromise. Checking out the hospital to find the hearty Minister of Health, who already has the nickname of Gatekeeper of the Afterlife, Yugen Ushitora, will lead to both of them being kidnapped and forced into a death game alongside much of the hospital's staff. You can explore a mysterious building in first person and solve a variety of puzzles in order to survive some brutal escapades, all streamed live by a VTuber. Head out to the Ministry of Science run by Teko Eon, apparently the founder's closest companion, and you'll find yourself in a novel mode visual novel where you will make choices across a collection of different character perspectives in order to stop a terrorist attack. This one has a flowchart, numerous bad endings, and a funny mascot character. If these all seem a bit too menacing, you can head out to Shuten Academy instead, the local school. Rei's combination of the androgyny and social anxiety and the Minister of Education, Honoka Hokushikan, being rather, eccentric, leads to a dating sim parody where Rei is forced into the role of the self-insert protagonist, male protagonist. Despite being something of a parody, this romance adventure also features classic time management mechanics and Tokimeki Memorial homages in the form of bombs and the classic confession by a plant with the urban legend attached, which kind of make it feel compelling mechanically as well as narratively. It also feels like a dig at all the games where the protagonist is supposed to be you, the player, but you're locked to a male avatar anyway. I'm looking at you, Atlas Games. And finally, by traveling to the Ministry of Security, run by the biker girl Manju Fuchicho, you discover a serial killer on the loose, slaughtering everyone on their path. This stealth action horror route will have you racing around various buildings looking for clues, escape, and ways to fight back against a crazed maniac with a jackhammer primed for your skull. Along the way, you'll be treated to some incredible visual design where we really get to see Simadoriru's art style shine front and center. The background CGs are highly stylized and really sell the atmosphere of Shuten. Character sprites have neon accents and bright colors and contrasts to make everyone pop. The camera will zoom in on characters to focus on them if they need some extra emphasis. They have their own unique effects, such as Inugami's laughter graphic, the halos on the angel's text box, and the distortions that match characters' various color palettes when Rei starts freaking out on each route. Each route also has its own UI, which really helps the cast feel alive and fleshes out the world of Shuten. There are so many small CG art pieces too. Instead of full-screen graphics, Shuten Order goes for smaller inserts to show both extra action and movement. They are incredible and allow for the amplifying of the mood during both quiet scenes, such as Rei stealthing around or fleeing for her life, and quiet moments. The fireflies really stick out. They're even used to create animations at various points. It's a real shame that this game doesn't have a CG gallery for me to go through all of it in post, because it's a feast for the eyes. Masafumi Takada delivers a soundtrack that is varied for each gameplay style, but feels totally consistent. It's a bit different to his usual style, which is highly associated with Danganronpa and the 100 Lines auditory identities, and instead I'm reminded of his work back in Suda 51's The Silver Case. There are about 100 songs on the soundtrack, which means there really isn't much in the way of repetition per story arc. There is very little narrative repetition between arcs too. Each one has entirely new compelling casts with incredibly diverse characters. Information that you find pertaining to Rei's murder is collated within an overall menu, updating as you progress through the various routes, with no route invalidating reveals among other routes. In fact, very much unlike other works by Takumi Nakazawa, the route order here doesn't matter all that much at all. I would recommend doing Manju's route fairly early and maybe saving Teo's route for later, but otherwise you can go nuts between the 5. They don't miss. I spent my time enthralled by the world and its mysteries, determined to uncover them all. Overall, it took me just under 40 hours to complete the game, which makes it quite the substantial title. For those curious, there is unfortunately no English dub. The game's dialogue is though fully voiced in Japanese. I did notice a few awkward parts in the translation in regards to Rei's gender. For much of the game, Rei's gender to others is ambiguous. They default to assuming she's male. However, there are a couple of points in the science route, as well as within the VTuber dialogue in the health route, where Rei is gendered with pronouns that the character should not be using at that point. This is likely due to the dialogue being unvoiced and then perhaps stored around dialogue where it is correctly identified, and that could be easily fixed in a post-release patch. Shuten Order is a magical game, fundamentally 5 games in one with their own narrative paths, and then they all tie together to create an immaculate narrative experience. I'm shocked that TooKyo could release a game that fundamentally rivals the experience of the 100 Line and tackles the whole multi-genre game from a whole new angle. It's a phenomenal title, and I by now truly have no idea what this studio could go on to do next. If you like adventure games or anything even visual novel adjacent, you'll find some stuff to love here, and hopefully join me in a happy new end. Noisy Pixels giving Shuten Order a 10 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching. Noisy Pixels is a group dedicated to bringing you guys the best news, reviews, previews, and more. Please stick around by subscribing and ringing the bell if you haven't already, and stay tuned for any and all oncoming releases. You can also check out our Patreon to support us if you'd like, please. And while you're there, and tell me which route you're interested in the most, or you're just interested in one particular mystery that's got you just insanely stumped. There are so many of them, I'm sure I'm gonna get like 17 different answers.
Noisy Pixel.